Welcome to He Vibes, She Dives. I am one of the co-hosts, Lady Drasmin. This is episode 3 in the series, Reptilians and Shadow Governments. Let's drop in with 3 cleansing breaths. Inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth. First one, inhale. Exhale, let everything go. Second, inhale through the nose. Exhale, soft, arriving fully in the body. Third one, through the nose. Exhale, arriving fully here in the moment. Welcome. So, here I am with lots of thoughts and no clearly prepared notes. And this is the flow of this series to arrive all that I am. And the timing that I find myself in as I am recording this is truly curious. I won't dive into that right now. Let's just say it is apropos and relevant to this conversation. In episode 1, if you haven't watched it already, I highly invite you to go check that out. My co-host and soul brother, Timber Petro, and I share a conversation around this topic, reptilians and shadow governments. And I go deep and do share things in there. And there are still more things to share. Where to begin? What I feel guided is to share with you a little snippet of my chapter from this book, Sensual Symphony, that I co-authored with 6 powerful sacred sovereigns. And we each express our journey through reclaiming our sensuality and how it applies to the being human experience. And for me, and this mirrors in the testimony of the other beings in here, sensuality is so vital for our thriving and well-being. And sensuality is really the expression of our senses, our aliveness, our divinity in this temporary human vessel. And what does sensuality have to do with the government? Well, let's go a little deeper than the government, and let's look at the reptilians. Or rather, what and how do these connect? Well, episode 1 goes into that. The biggest distortion that has been normalized is segregation. And it is so clear in the way that the housing is set up. The apartments stacked on top of each other. The condos, people tightly squeezed in, sometimes on top of each other. The hotels in the middle of the city. Why? Why so many? Right? The supermarkets So many diverse options. Diverse, the quality of food. And yet this has become the normal way of being, where you turn 18 and you move out and you get your own apartment and then you have a little family and then your children, and then it just like you're segregating and separating each other. We're separating ourselves from community that we need to sustain us and support us. And I'm currently staying in a townhouse. I'm moving out of here at the end of this month. And it has been quite the interesting experience to have my bedroom wall connected with the bedroom wall of someone who I don't get to say hi to, share tea with. I can feel their energy. Their dogs are so uncomfortable, and there are sounds that are quite concerning. We'll just leave it at that. The children aren't outside playing with each other. There's lots of families living here, but they're not playing with each other. And even outside of apartments, in neighborhoods, a lot of neighborhoods, why are the children not outside playing together? Why are the parents not taking turns babysitting and supporting each other with their children, so the parents have regular date night every single week, twice a week, one to go out, get out of the house, and one sex date night a week? It blows my mind that when you go to the Western doctors, there's no question on the medical history of how is your sex life. They talk about how many sexual partners you've had and are you currently sexually active, but they don't go deeper into that. And that is so important. So the government is an altar to stability that has created or been created to perpetuate this distortion that we have to be in our own little uncomfortable little boxes to get what our basic needs met, to have the safety of housing, to have a vacation once a year or once every 5 years. Oh my gosh, I should just be so grateful. So grateful. There is this confusion in the mind that television distracts us from recognizing and addressing. And in fact, when you start breaking away from your social media devices, I have several because I work on this online platform. We are in the age of Aquarius, where engaging in tech and being a presence online is the way to anchor in the new now Earth timeline that we are in. So there's this isolation and separation that's happening. And there is absolutely no reason for it. None. These little fences on the backyard, like I get needing privacy and space, right? But where's the vitality? Where's the aliveness of being? There's a rote memorization that has happened. There is a dilution of critical thinking. And this is one of the reptilian programs. Like this is all, a lot of this is reptilian design that was seeded hundreds and thousands of years ago and has slowly solidified into a collective entity that feeds upon despair, that feeds upon stress, that feeds upon anxiety, that feeds upon, I just have to make it through the next 30 days and pay my rent, and then that guarantees me another 30 days of life. It disgusts me that most of the population is spending, for example, here in Phoenix, Arizona, $1,400. Utility is not included, okay? For a one-bedroom space where shit's broken and management will not fix it. That's the tenant's responsibility. The fridge literally freezes my food and it doesn't work properly. One of the reasons I'm leaving before the end of the month, very soon. So there's this normalized behavior that I set that intention before stepping into a space, an online recording space, and especially this video. I set this intention of, may my voice shift, break through some of this illusion and confusion that so many are saturated in. May my presence and my words come through in a way that allows you to start questioning the reality that you perceive is a normal way of being. Because let me tell you something, for most of y'all, it is not. I'm in the concrete jungle right now. There are spirits walking out there. I am a powerful being. And I will not go on a walk at night in this neighborhood because of the entities of control that are here and the way they can just hijack a body and act out. Body hijacking is a real thing, people. And the more you just give blind obedience, blind allegiance to something outside of you, are you really living? So there's different ways that consciousness has been manipulated, and that has been inherited through the DNA and continued to be cultivated through farmed food, farmed animals, through breaking away the community and creating segregation and isolation in pockets, normalizing borders when the land belongs to no one. Literally, life decides when you're complete, and then you go back to the dirt. Vaccines are another way that the reptilians, the darkness, the malevolence attempt to dilute willpower. Ultimately, it is your choices that say, I am sovereign and I take responsibility for my power and what I create, or I don't. There's no try. Yoda said it best. There is no try, there is only do. I'm thirsty, I'm picking up the water. I want to turn down the volume, I pick up the remote. I don't try, okay? Like babies are literally trying because they're learning, and they're not even trying. Like they're really like striving. They're making attempts, right? Like, I want it, I got it. I want it, I got it. I want it, I got it. I want it, I look at it. I want it, I feel it. I want it, I see it. And a few years ago, the whole COVID pandemic happened and this vaccine was released. I refused. I saw the program for what it was. I felt it coming. I had visions, dreams years before it happened. And this is one of my gifts. And I talk about my Claire gifts in this book. And so I saw it for what it was. And I said, no, thank you. And then my brother passed away. He was swept under the cleansing wave and his soul chose to exit. Instead of going through his Saturn return, he exited the human experience. That was his choice. That was his soul contract. And ironically, that liberated my tongue to speak truth into why I am so confident, shall we say, in my knowing, in my understanding of how this bullshit plays out to a degree, right? This is based on, there's a lot that is based on my understanding, yet most of this is really intuitive, really the archangels, council of the utmost high, granting me permission to tap into the Akashic records to confirm. So then the question comes in of, okay, Lady Drasmin, if this is the truth, and of course, truth is singular, its versions and interpretations are many. This is my truth that will resonate with many of you. Is so much of what is happening isn't actually happening, but we have literal boxes, squares. We're living in squares. Squares are not a natural geometry of nature. Nature moves in odds, 0, the void, and replicates 1. And we are living in number 4s. We are limiting our expression. So there's this invitation for you to start questioning more of why you are doing what you are choosing to do right now. I'm going to share with you some pieces of my testimony. This is how they have remained strong until now. Because my brother's passing allowed me to speak truth of what I experienced as a child through the name of power, through the name of money, through the name of protection, right? Through the name of God, Jesus. What I went through as a child for almost a decade, I go into details in my chapter, and it's relevant. And now I start tying that back into sensuality, right? Because the experience of being in my body for what it is without it meaning anything other than my divine pleasure was cut off. It was cut off for my mother. It was cut off for her mother. It was cut off for so many of the mothers that walked before me. All these mothers put in their little tiny square boxes, put into their little segregated sections, put into their little corners. Oh, women do this, men do that. Women are nothing without a man. Women are property. It's been what, 50 years since a woman could open her own bank account in the United States of America? Such a free country, right? Because, oh my gosh, women have voting rights for 40 years. Excuse me, we wouldn't have humanity without women. Women ought to be in control of the money. I'm just saying, women understand the natural flow of abundance. So all these mothers before me, suppression, segregation, isolation, and the men off fighting someone else's wars and dealing with someone else's problems because what, they're not grown-ups, they can't deal with their own problems. Like there was a reason we had councils and tribes and everything was fine. The indigenous people had a system. Okay, probably could have used some upgrades in some places. That's just the matter of change. That's just part of evolution. So now we're entering a timeline where we're stripping away the distortion, getting back to the roots of what matters, and saying, okay, how do we weave science, spirit, and love? How do we weave the humanity and the divine experience and the earth experience to co-create and have thriving, healthy lives? There's different ways to do communal living than apartments that don't take care of the people that live there. To me, that's an abomination of human rights. Of and even the word rights, like, that's a strange word, right? But that is the basic human right. Like the birds and the animals, they get shelter and they get their needs met. Needs, there's a word, right? To reclaim from a place of sovereignty. Yes, shelter is a need, and no, I don't have to suffer for it. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Make this video go viral, okay? And like everyone just take a day collectively together to turn off all your alarms. And you know what? Let's do it for 7 days. Why the fuck not? And just slow down. Okay, fine. We can start with 24 hours. I can feel some of y'all freaking out already, even though I'm recording this. Okay, 24 hours where we just turn off the alarms and we don't force ourselves to function. You know what's going to happen? Most of you are going to realize how fucking exhausted and burnt out and unhappy you are. That's what the COVID pandemic did. It made people realize how burnt out and exhausted and tired they are. It brought spaciousness for awareness. And then this vaccine came in. I don't know why I keep showing this piece of paper to you. It's just like my scribble notes from the other day. My hands like to do things, right? Okay, so these vaccines, yes, some of them super helpful, important. Super grateful that we got that polio vaccine. That shit is real, okay? When I moved to the United States of America over 20 years ago, there were 7 vaccines that were needed. There were vaccines, most of them I'd had as a child, a couple of them, like 2 of them needed to be renewed. Totally normal. I love Western science. My background, for those of you who don't know, is pre-med. I wanted to be a neurosurgeon. I am a doula, birth and death doula. I've delivered like close to a dozen babies, but I haven't delivered babies in about a decade. I can, and I know how. Anyways, I digress. There's like this interweaving of intuition and science, right? The vaccines, they have a place, right? But the degree now, I think the last I checked, there were like 22 or 23 vaccines that a child needed to be registered into a high school. What the fuck for? Just eat food that is grown in living soil. Collaborate with your neighbors, more community gardens. I cried tears of joy when I moved to Arizona and I discovered that there is a composting service. Yes, it is a private subscription-based service. It's not normalized because why should we care about Mother Earth and not just throw our food in the trash? Oh, because it's so readily available at the grocery store. We just go pay 99 cents and eat this garbage and we're hungry 10 minutes later. And then we're complaining why we're fat and tired and depressed and sickly. Hello, it's the food you're eating. Put the fucking Doritos down. No, you do not need soda. Yes, it will be difficult to get off the junk food because you have become addicted to it because they design food to make you addicted to it. Fast food, chain restaurants. It's all encoded in the same way. So it doesn't matter where you eat, it's food. Vaccines are a way that they dilute your DNA. They start stripping down the maternal RNA. That's what the COVID vaccine was for. And I learned that because I was guided to receive the vaccines after my brother passed, and I was looking to go to India to take care of his home and his will, which, okay. I was like, I prayed, I fasted for 7 days, and I said, is this truly divine guidance? Or is this fucking distortion? I was scared, not gonna lie. It cleared the fear. You never want to enter into holy work from a place of anything other than absolute confidence. This is your task, this is what you're doing, like a surgeon. So all my pre-med background and all that study for neuroscience and to be a surgeon actually has worked in my favor in the energetic surgery that I do for other humans and for Earth consciousness. So funny how everything comes full circle, right? So after I fasted for 7 days and I realized, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I said, okay, vaccine one, it's gonna be Archangel Metatron administering. I'm gonna receive the downloads from the utmost high. And vaccine number two is gonna be Mother Mary Magdalena. This was my second year of sitting with Ascended Master Mother Mary Magdalene. And I asked her to step in and be the channel. And so when I went to get the vaccine in the school auditorium, like, why is this shit not happening in a medical center? Okay, why is it happening in a school? Start asking questions, people. It was a really intense experience. I spent 18 months alchemizing that toxin through my body, learning about it, getting to know that entity, and then removing that entity from within me. And this is soul mastery work that I currently do with my clients. When I remove entities from them, it's why I can see them, because I intentionally go in and engage with them and develop a relationship with them so that then I can work creating a Trojan horse, making myself a Trojan horse of sorts. So like I have an inside look, and my devotional practices, my years of study, my gifts all allow me to communicate in the clarity that I do. And also really just surrendering to channeling and allowing free thought to come through. I'm going to watch this later and like, take notes, right? Anyways, I'm growing in my speaking abilities, and these are topics, right, that are just like, whew, whew. And I couldn't talk about what I experienced as a child because there was threat to my brother's life, right? That's how they controlled me into silence. And when my brother passed, I had everything to gain. And suddenly I found myself in a space where I can just freely talk about all these things now, and the things I do and the ways I work and my experiences as a child, my experiences for a decade, all close to a decade, that feeds, this is how they siphon energy to feed control, right? This is why it takes a lot of questioning and soul work and time to break free from the matrix, to break free from the illusion, to break away from the isolation, to learn how to trust each other and love each other again, because we don't trust and love ourselves because we've allowed ourselves to be overridden. And at a subconscious level, you are aware. You know that you have given your power away and you don't want to look at it. That's the shadow work, baby. Okay. And I've got a book. It's not here on my table right now, but I've got a book, Shadow Alchemy, where me and 21 other authors talk about different ways to engage the shadow. The shadow is just simply those places that you haven't looked at and embraced, but they are a part of you. So the sooner you embrace those parts of you, the sooner you start actually enjoying your life. So this isolation from each other, this separation from our bodies, is how these reptilians work through the government and through people in your immediate circle to keep you in this loop of having just enough to keep you alive and have a little fun, right? But not above that threshold and not below that threshold. And I've studied statistics. I graduated with a bachelor's in psychology, sociology, and something else. I don't even remember what. And so like they know how to work with brain chemistry. They know how to tap into the nervous system. They pump out frequencies through music and television and commercials. They encode those advertisements and big billboards down the freeway with code that I can see that draws your attention. It triggers the addiction in your genetics. So how do we break free, right? We've talked about what's going on. Now, how do we reclaim our sovereignty and our power? When we start looking at self, we start looking at our body. We start looking at our reality and what we perceive as our reality. Is it something you've inherited? Is it something that you were told? Is it something you read? Or is it your soul truth? And then you start developing relationship with the body. And so that was my path, right? I I was on that train of, okay, I go to school, I graduate high school, I go to college, I get a degree, I get married, I have children, I balance career, husband, and children. Children go to college, husband and I retire, we die. Happy, healthy life, right? Sounds awesome on paper. It was eating at my soul, and I didn't know why, right? So, in my book, Shadow Alchemy, I talk into some of the experiences with my shadow that led to my awakening. In this book, in this chapter, I talk specifically about my awakening to my feminine body, because reclaiming, and it is relevant in today's share on this topic, because it is the reclaiming of my feminine body that allowed me to fully break away from that illusion matrix of segregation and separation. I have a strong circle of women around me, and I have a strong circle of divine brothers around me now. That was not the case several years ago. I was the tough, independent woman. I got this. I don't need anybody. Oh, I got my family, I got my friends. I don't need anybody else. And then when that family and friendship dissolved, most of my family is dead. My friends are my soul family, and then my soul family are my friends. My inner circle is super tight, but whoo, quality, yo. So good. I'm super blessed and grateful to have Timber Petro, my co-host, in my inner circle, both a collaborator and soul family. Like, I'm so blessed. But it was not always like this. Okay. No, it was not always like this. So I'm going to start reading now. My body, through the innocence of childhood, starting at the age of 6, was used as a cleansing portal, a human Hail Mary to absolve the sins of male doctors, lawyers, pastors, politicians, some seat of authority, who all shared the belief that the purpose of children, the younger the better, was to pardon their crimes in whatever way they deemed necessary. Often, these ways were sexual. Sometimes with male dogs in heat, as they screamed at the little girls and boys, "Take that, bitch," watching and masturbating. And they would all spill their seed into this collective silver chalice that was forced down the throat of one of the young children. And for many years, I was the chosen one. And I quote those words because those are the exact words that were used. You are the chosen one, honey. Drink this. This is your purpose. Sometimes their collective semen was used in a dark ritual, and that was usually with the blood of a dead child, which did happen a lot. It was like 60-40, let's say. Now, if that's not enough, there is more. There's more. Oh, and there's more. So they would force down this cup down a child's mouth. And if the child spat any of it out or didn't clean themselves up and make sure their lips were nice and clean and kissable, I won't go into the details, but they are the details in this chapter. Let's just say that the child was made an example of distorted power. Okay? Still, this didn't stop some of the children from fighting back. When the body is violated to a certain point, and when that body is so young, perhaps these children did not believe they had anything left. And so death was preferred over living with the trauma. Some others, I genuinely believed, could not take in the sometimes overflowing chalice. Gag reflex kicking in. For fuck's sake, some of these children were 3. Either way, no mercy was ever shown. So lots of details in here. For me, I chose to live for my little brother because I was raising him as a son. Like I remember I was 6. My mother comes home from the hospital. She puts this little boy in my arms and she's like, here's the brother you prayed for. You can take care of him now. And then she went to sleep. And at that time we had servants and we had help. So it was lovely. But yeah, I became a mom at the age of 6 to my little brother. I raised him. And so I lived. I drank that cup down. Oh, I lost count. And the memory of his eyes, his sweet little innocent eyes, his voice allowed me to develop this stone face. So maybe my stubborn resilience, made me a favorite of theirs because I was the oldest. I kept being dragged back into the room until close to my 15th birthday. And um, most of the children, everyone else, I ought to say, was under the age of 11. So I was there past my prime years. The distortion and the darkness is closer to home than most of you realize. And if you all really commit to taking yourselves seriously, taking your responsibility of your choices and decisions, how you vote with your dollars, with your pounds, with your pesos, where you send your children to school, whether you get to know your neighbors or not, there's no reason for single mothers to be struggling around on their own. Absolutely bonkers. Bonkers. Okay? Bonkers. The world is bonkers. Because this kind of shit is still going on. A lot of people compliment my resilience when they meet me. I'm like, please don't compliment my resilience. How about you go and take action and be the change? That's how you can compliment me. That's how you can show that you respect what I have to say and you value my presence in this world. I don't want your thank yous and your, oh my gosh, you're such a survivor. Yeah, I am. I'm aware. Thank you. Now let's fucking do something about it. Let's end this shit once and for all. So this was my life for almost a decade. And then a few weeks after turning 15, an opportunity, a breakthrough presented. You'll have to get a copy of this book on my online market to find out what happened that allowed me to leave India, which is where this was happening, and come to the US. But oh no, no. Just because I had moved across the world and tucked away a lot of these memories in a little black box that, is still there somewhere. I've reclaimed a lot of my stuff, but there's still a lot that's tucked away. I mean, understandably so. I believe that this is part of why I was so drawn to neuroscience and the study of the mind and psychology and human behavior and sociology, because I needed to understand, like, how can that be the case, right? So when I moved to the US, I was no longer forced into the room of evil, but the threats of silence remained. However, this body had grown addicted to abuse. And so adolescence, was filled with external violence, self-inflicted harm, drugs, alcohol, meaningless sex, like it just was there. And then a heroin overdose and a forced abortion shocked me back into human reality around the age of 17. And I remembered, like, holy shit, I still have my brother to like fucking bring home to me. Okay. What the fuck are you doing? Like, get your head out of your ass, okay? So I got smart. The self-harm continued. I got smart, right? I go into all of that here. And then fast forward to 14 years where I have the awakening of my feminine body. And as I go through my experience of reclaiming relationship with myself as a woman, I realized that I could not operate on the system that had been designed for me. By this point, I had been exited from my medical career. Okay. Almost what was the year 28? Yeah, so it'll be, yeah, it's only been 8 7 8 years since I've been out of the medical industry. See the word industry there? Okay. Like what are we? Fucking machine parts? We're not an industry. We're a consciousness in a vessel that's got its stuff going on, and we're not all white males between the ages of 25 and 47, which is what a lot of medication and um, uh, diagnoses are based on. They're based on research done on a majority of the population being white males between the ages of 23 and 47. Like, even the medicine out here is not actually designed for you. It's designed for a computer simulated number that has no connection with the fact that you are a living consciousness in a body. You are not the body, you are a living consciousness in a body. You are alive in your body. And all these programs and conditions and systems and medical things and all these outside voices telling you who to be, what to drink, when to take it. Okay, yeah, just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you know my body, because hello, this is my body. And especially as women, reclaiming our bodies is the greatest act of reclaiming and restoring the balance of power, because it's not about um because it's about aligning with our own meaning of power, and then power to co-create with one another, because we are all powerful beings in our own rights. We all have this magnificent brain that we can strengthen into to increase memory and retention. For me, plant allies, super helpful. Love them. I am one of the most functional stoners I know. I can do dabs, most dabs, and crunch numbers for a few hours. In fact, I love to take massive dabs and do like heady paperwork. It just chills me out and I get shit done. Learning about my body showed me how much how much I had been indoctrinated through these rituals, through the programming of my father's theological Bible preaching. And I want to say something about my father that I've never shared in public before. And in fact, this just finally came through me a few weeks ago with Soul Brother Timber Petro. We were having a late night conversation. And like, we had just gone for a walk and dogs were going off, and he was like curious about the response because he spent a lot of time with me and has noticed how my body responds to the dogs and how dogs respond to where I am. And hello, because of what I experienced, can you blame a body? Like, yeah, I've done the work. Like, I know that I'm safe and protected, but like some things, they just don't leave. They're imprinted. They're a part of you. This is part of shadow work, is about embracing that, okay, this happened to me and this left an imprint on me, and okay, I cannot live with dogs. How, no matter how adorable and cute and fluffy they are. Like, I will pet you on a good day and you live way over there, the fuck away from my little child that doesn't know the difference. It's not personal. It's self-preservation. And yet I've lived in a lot of isolation for many years, and I couldn't really speak about why, dogs were such a fucking problem until my brother's passing, right? And now I can really just share, like, okay, you want to know the real story of why dogs make me uncomfortable? Here, go buy a copy of my book because I'm tired of speaking the story out loud. This recording, the series, it's all part of this. So that's cool, but it doesn't come up in my daily conversations. Like, I'm focused on the present moment and what we're doing to create the reality that we do desire. That's what I talk about in my real life. This is for the purpose of bringing attention and awareness and inviting you to really start questioning what your reality is, right? A lot of these doctors are paid big bonuses for prescribing certain things, for having X amount of surgeries on their ticket. A lot of these medical people that you go and see do not give a fuck about your body, especially us women. If you are seeing a male doctor, it's send me an email if you really believe this male doctor is in your best benefit, because like those are going to be rare and few in between. Okay. Like we need to see doctors that actually support our bodies. Brown people need brown doctors. Black people need black doctors. White people need white doctors because they have that understanding of the body. Okay. We're not animals that we can all go to the vet and the vet just can take care of most of the problems. We are individual human beings, and our genetics play a huge part in this reclaiming of sovereignty in our body. So I want to share this last thing about my father because this is the other piece, this is part of my story and testimony, and then, other things. But the other big piece of why I have such an intimate relationship with the darkness, shall we say, and it is a chosen path, right? I do walk a very thin line. I am aware of that. And I am grateful for the inner circle, the tight inner circle I have. And I've gone through many initiations and tests. So I've learned it's better to be humble than be humbled. So I really strive, right, to listen, to understand, to feel, to sense, to know when to speak and when to be silent. And I've always had this suspicion about my father. And when you read my chapter in this book, you'll understand. And I've always, my first exorcism that I experienced, I wasn't in the room, but I was in the house, was when I was the age of somewhere between 2 and 3. And my mother verified the story, like after the memory came back to me and I repaired my nervous system pathways to reclaim that memory. This memory came back to me. And then I called her and she's like, how do you remember that? You were 2, I think, or 3. It's like, okay, that lands. Then she told me the story. I'm like, okay, that lands. So basically, my father, he was a Christian. What the fuck is that word? A Christian? A preacher, Christian, missionary, Christian. Sure, he was a Christian Patro. And he was called, they were in South America at this time, and he was called to this family's house because un demonio, right? There's a devil in my child. And um, my mother and him went there in the middle of the night, and I was very young, and it was a last minute late call, so they took me there. And then my father goes into the bedroom, and he didn't speak Spanish. That's part of what his relationship with my mother was, that she was his translator when he would go and preach and train pastors and build churches. So he called her in there to translate, but she wasn't going to take me in there. So she left me out in the living room. And this child had all these toys out and little toys with little faces. And I wasn't allowed to have any dolls or toys with faces as a child. I wasn't allowed to receive gifts. I wasn't allowed to have anything with faces on them. All my clothes were custom made, tailor made. So I never wore street clothes. So, my father was very keen on energetics and hygiene, and I didn't understand why, but I'm grateful for a lot of his teachings because it is what allows me to move in many realms. The teachings that I learned through observation and being his kid, like I inherited a lot of that. But he was also a very troubled man. Like he was a living Jekyll and Hyde. Like he would flip a switch and turn into this violent man. Like he would beat me bloody, right? And he never drank, he never did alcohol, but he would just go into rage. And that's the shadow that I inherited that I talk about in my chapter in Shadow Alchemy and what I continue to dance with in life. This is my shadow work, dancing with rage as it arises and doing my work that I do with it. So it's been quite a journey, shall we say, right? Untangling my mind from what I was experiencing as a child in my home with my father, like to everyone else, he's the perfect preacher, he's got the perfect wife, the perfect eldest child, well educated, well dressed, well fed, well spoken, well mannered, like the golden boy, the youngest son, like the perfect family. And then behind closed doors, like if things weren't done his way when he wanted them, how he wanted them, flip a switch. This man would just go bananas, take off his belt, and whip me, sometimes bloody. If my mother intervened, it would be bad for her. So, she stopped. And years later, I found out that he actually kept her in a drug-induced coma for most of her marriage to him. So, he had her under control, and I assumed that she didn't care because she was very absent and always like in a meditative trance, always so sleepy. I'm always so sleepy. I don't know why I'm so sleepy, right? When I left India and moved to the US, my mother came with me. Within a year, like I saw a woman that I had seen when I was very young, around the age of 6 and 7. And then when I really started, the whole rooms thing, I realized was not a one-off thing or once every while. It was like becoming a regular thing. I was like, oh, fuck. And then my mother became absent, right? So I had to do my work of forgiveness around that distortion, that again, that isolation, the segregation within the home, right? Oof. So I've always been able to really see spirits, demons, entities, legions. I had an experience at the age of 11 where that got stunted, and it's been a practice to reclaim that trust within myself, right? And I spoke my truth out to Timber, and I speak it now in witness of this global stage of my father had legion in him, and it would take over and he would act in unconscious ways. And so when I was born into his bloodline, there were a few years in my early 20s where I would see entities acting out through me, and I didn't understand what was happening. And so I had to do my own work to clear and cut the cords of that bloodline to my father. And this is part of why I have asked for and been given new names and have legally changed my name, because that is not something I'm carrying forward, period, full stop, end of conversation. And I can talk about all these things now because I have everything to gain. So when I finally spoke that truth with Timber, like there's something powerful about speaking our truth out loud. And this is the medicine that I provide in my sessions, is just holding space for you to really be seen and heard, encouraging that truth and clarity to come through. Because then once you clear that, it's like, wow, I didn't even realize that was a really heavy burden I was carrying until now. Holy shit, that was intense. So if you're interested in sessions with me, details on how to connect with me are below. Shame-free plug-in here for my offerings and gifts, because I just know what I'm doing. And I've seen how lives of other people change when I come in and I help them break and remove these entities that they've inherited through the blood, through family, right? Granted, my experience is definitely on the scale of holy what did you just say to me? Is this real? Oh, honey, I've lived it. Okay. Question all you want, please. So we reclaim our bodies, we take responsibility for ourselves. We start to ask questions about who is the authority over our minds, over our hearts, over our bodies. And this is how we start to break free from the matrix. We start communicating and talking with our neighbors, right? We support each other, not just during times of need, but every day, because every day we have needs. The biggest sign that there is a presence of darkness or an entity in your area is the presence of confusion, because confusion distracts from the largest joy possible. When you are confused, when you're not clear, when you're hemming and hawing, when you're like, I don't know, maybe I'll think about it. I'm scared. I don't know. When you really want to, or you don't, you already know. Okay. There's this fabulous book I've talked about in some podcasts and talks in the past, but I'll share it here because it's relevant. There's a book called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell, and he goes into the science of trusting our intuition. And that book was a breakthrough book for me because I was very science minded. Okay. Here I am talking about some woo-woo stuff, quote unquote, that, people with the gift can see and can attest to. And we all see different things and we're putting the pieces together. And the reason a lot of us are seeing pieces instead of wholes is because the consciousness is fractured because of the way that systems are set up to create this enoughness that keeps people alive, but not alive. So claim your aliveness. And you'll see those entities starting to reveal themselves within you. And then you can contact me or someone who works on that higher level in similar frequencies that I do, and we can support you. But you ultimately have to do that work to walk in integrity every day, to maintain your nervous system harmony, to be in inclusive collaboration, right? Because there's 3 steps to stopping the isolation. Number 1, sovereignty. Sovereign body, my choices. These are my children who are also sovereign and have choices. And to a degree, I am their parent and I am responsible for the choices I make to provide them their best chance of life, because life is life. Okay? Life decides when life is done with itself, period. So once you reclaim your sovereignty, then you start including your children, your parents, like we don't need to be putting our elders into community homes. They're meant to be around the campfire, sharing their wisdom with the children. I would love to have a grandmother in my life that I can go and have tea with every week and have dinner with. Like, hey, Nana, are there any like really beautiful elder spiritual grandmothers that would love to adopt me? I would love to come to your dinners because I don't have community that I can go and have family dinners with. I don't even have someone to put on my emergency contact list. Like I ask my friends that I share town with, like, hey, can I put you on my emergency list? And they're like, of course, you don't even have to ask, which I'm grateful for. But I don't have like one contact person, a blood related person to have as my emergency contact. That's some fucked up shit. And some people don't even have a person that they can trust and rely on. I've had perfect strangers ask me, hey, can I use you as a reference so I can, get this job at a gas station? I'm like, oh, honey, of course. We all deserve to have our basic needs met, and connection is a basic human need. Okay? Period. We need to feel touch. And that was something that I had to heal and repair, because can you imagine anyone anyone wanting to be touched after going through all of this? Hell no. I faked it. Okay? Sorry to all my exes, really. I'm really sorry, okay? But I faked it. I was numbed, I was drugged, I was on alcohol or pills or something, quick fix. Oh, 5 minutes? Wow. You're an expert. You made him come in 5 minutes. No, we're not in touch with our bodies. The nervous system is deadened and mutant, and you don't need to have 5 glasses of wine or even a sip of, whatever to loosen up your inhibitions. No, 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 you don't. That's part of the addiction. So sovereignty, reclaiming our bodies, including ourselves into our lives, including our families, including our friends, including our neighbors. And that's what opens room for creative collaboration. This is how we will create and anchor the new now earth in creative cooperative collaboration. This is the way that it has always been. Yet because their power has been fed by the innocence of children, myself included, and several others who are buried in the sweet arms of Mother Earth, many of them I buried, some things don't leave. Once unseen can't be unseen. So my tolerance for I can't, when you really can and you're choosing not to, is actually zero. Because this is not the way. And yet so many are participating. And that's your choice. You are choosing to participate in the destruction of our earth, of our humanity, of our dignity. So I am so grateful if you're still here listening to this. Thank you for sticking through this whole podcast share with me and listening to what I have to say, listening to my heart, listening to my invitations. Reclaim your body, question your reality, and make choices that truly support your optimal well-being, because that wisdom is coming from within you. If you really feel stuck, get naked and hang out with a tree. There's something about that's very liberating when you remove your clothes and go into a forest, remove your clothes and sit in front of a tree and just lay there in the embrace of Mother Earth. If you all had told me 10 years ago that I would be on a YouTube platform telling millions of people to go and get naked in the forest and lay on a tree, I would have laughed my ass off at you. I'd be like, ha ha ha, ha, you need to take some meds. Because I was there. I was there. I understand. I have so much love and compassion for all of us. And I also have no tolerance for willful ignorance. Now you have the information. Are you going to slow down and reclaim your sovereignty and create the life that we deserve and desire? The only answer is yes, right? We have everything to gain, beloved one. We have everything to gain. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for tuning in. I am Lady Drasmin. Until we meet again, take care of your beautiful, sacred, sovereign selves.